So just a note, the ASB board will be conducting this meeting in person and via conference call. In accordance with the MGA, Section 199, at this time, public attendance at the ASB meetings will be facilitated through the virtual means of the conference call, sorry. And just a note, this may be recorded and posted on social media. So I'll call this meeting to order. Adoption of the agenda. Is there any errors, omissions, deletions?
I'll move that we adopt the agenda.
Seeing none. Oh, sorry. Before we go there, I'll just, we are the process of passing motions. I don't know. I don't listen to you when you say this. I will be asking for those not in favor, and if there is opposition, we will have a roll call vote. If there's no opposition, I will deem the motion carried. Amber, go ahead.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Any concerns with the agenda? Motion before you? Hearing none, that motion is carried. Adoption of the ASB meeting minutes, April 29th, 2020.
I'll move to adopt the minutes.
Concerns? We have a motion on the floor. Hearing none, that motion is carried. 2.1, items up for discussion and related business, unfinished business or business arising, soil movement educational campaign. Take her away, Russ.
Yeah, so as I think everyone's aware, the discussion came up last fall at an ASB meeting, just in regards to concerns with soil movement within the municipality and some of the issues that might arise from that. So at that time, discussion thought was to possibly do some changes to the land use bylaw. And I think in the meantime, there was discussion at the Planning Priorities Council in March, where the thought was that an education campaign would be the most suitable way to proceed with this. So what we have for you for information is a soil movement, a communication strategy, and a soil ag land, accepting soil on ag land fact sheet. So the first sheet is the fact sheet with the information that we thought would be important for producers to consider if they are going to go down this route of accepting soil. For us, with our role, of course, pest management and weeds through our legislation is a concern. There's sections dealing with that, as well as quality of the soil itself. Just as some of the material that we've seen hauled is not necessarily always good topsoil. And then drainage issues that could pop up, and just the requirements of the landowner from a regulatory standpoint for not filling in drainage areas or wetlands due to impacts it could have on neighbors, obviously. So there's the fact sheet, and then suggestions of things that farmers, producers, landowners can look at if they are going to accept it. Scrutinize the source, of course, is important to ask. Find out where the soil is coming from. If it's coming from an area that does have confirmed club root, that would be something that would be important to know. So quality is an issue. There's no point in putting topsoil or questionable material on top of good topsoil. So things like organic matter, sand, silt, clay content, or if there's issues like salinity or excess sodium in the soil, you could be making the problem worse actually if you aren't putting better material down, or as good a material down as that you have already. Pest section, again, canola, club-rooted canola is a concern, especially in our area. We don't have any, so that's something we want to focus on keeping out, as well as weeds is always an ongoing battle. agreement just to make sure, both the producer and whoever's hauling or you're receiving the soil from are on the same page. And then regulations, of course, as I mentioned, in regards to the Water Act and having the proper approvals in place if needed for drainage or wetlands and weed species. So with that, if that's acceptable, is just the general information that'll be released. There's a education strategy in place with the fact sheet. After this meeting, we would post it on the website for promotion. And then, of course, our various social media promotion throughout 2020 and again in the spring of 2021 when producers would be looking at potentially hauling soil again. Connector, which we would hit the August edition this year, and then again late winter, early spring edition. And then to have the materials available, of course, for if landowners are inquiring about what's required for topsoil hauling or what they should be concerned about. So it's something that could be obviously relayed to them or handed out to them when they're in the office. And make sure they're aware of all the issues that may arise. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. If there's any questions with that.
Thank you, Russ. Any questions from the board?
I just thought it looked excellent. Like, it's really easy to read, comprehensive information. Thought it was excellent.
Yeah, and I'll just note that was Alyssa that put this together.
We figured it wasn't you.
Yeah, you know that at this point. If it looks good, I didn't do it, so which I'm fine with.
We have a good team.
Any questions on the line? Hearing none. Any questions on the strategy, the educational strategy?
I really like the fact sheet. I think it is incumbent on the producer, whoever's receiving the soil. I mean, they do a good job in the city. Like, any piles of topsoil have to be they're checked for weeds there and all that kind of stuff. But it's still incumbent upon the producer on as a story, because I might as well tell a story. My son is in the excavation business, and they were doing a haul, and the soil was supposed to be good, and all of a sudden it's just started looking horrible. And wherever it was going to, they said they stopped it, right? So that's what has to happen. Like, everybody in the line, especially the end user, has to be aware of what's happening, right? So, and if it's your soil, it's your land, you will take care of it. So I really like this, the fact that the more information we can get out there, the better it is.
Russ, do you put like this fact sheet, maybe a little less fact, but more of a poster kind of thing in elevators and auction marts and stuff like that? Do you have that connection?
Yeah, we certainly can. I mean, we used to do that a lot with putting posters up in the community. Kind of taking a step back some from that just because of social media, but it certainly could be done. And yeah, the seed plants and
I just think there's a lot of stuff around.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea, and we can certainly do that.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. That's your target audience a lot of the time. I mean, I can name a few guys that sit in the auction mart that aren't quite social media savvy. But any other questions? I thought I heard the line open, but the only other thing, just talking about the strategy itself, and I think I get a lot of emails from different clubs or something like that. Is there an email list that ASB has that producers can sign up to, and they can get reminders or events emailed to them?
We've actually talked about maybe we're doing some strategic planning right now, so communication is going to be a big part of that. Realizing how important it is. So So what we've done so far on the website is just we've got a different email and contact, so it's easier to get a hold of us. And then we have discussed electronic newsletter for a number of years, and putting that out either monthly or just when needed. So we did start actually collecting emails. It was probably 3 years ago, and we didn't get that many. So yeah, we're looking to go that route, and that would outlay that in our strategic plan.
I know, like, you have your farm transition workshop, and if the producer likes it, he can sign up to get reminders or notifications if events like that happen again.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I know when Cowboys drink specials are on. But just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Any other questions? No? We just need to accept this as information. I gotta go back up to the recommendation. Yes. Board's wishes.
I'll move that the board accept the soil movement education program as information, documents, fact sheet as information.
Thank you, Glenn. Member Kester has moved. Any opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Support for Alberta Farmland Trust Resolution.
Yeah, so January of this year at our ASB meeting, I think you probably all remember Stan Garscallon that had come in and spoke to everyone on the Alberta Farmland Trust that they were trying to develop. So at that time, there was quite a bit of discussion, I think, and interest in it, and the direction was to pursue a resolution that would go to both the provincial, first to the regional ASB meeting in the fall, and then provincial, as well as the RMA conference, District 2 fall meeting, and then the RMA conference. So again, Alyssa has done up really great resolution. Stan had done a lot of the background information, obviously, ahead of time. So there's a lot of information there. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I don't know if you want to just look at therefore be it resolved. And something else to note, there'll be a bit of formatting change for the ASB. It's just there's a little bit of a difference between ASB format and RMA, so it's just primarily textual, so there won't be any content changes. So the two main parts of the resolution are the establishment of ag conservation as a priority under the Alberta Trust grant program, as well as work towards an agri-gift program to parallel eco-gift program, which is now available for ecologically significant land. I don't know, do you want to add anything, Alyssa, to it? I think, like I said, the eco or agri-gift would allow the tax benefits. Like there's fairly substantial tax benefits, obviously, through a gift like this that the eco-gift allows. So it would make sense to allow the same thing for agricultural land. And then for the farm trusts themselves, the ability to access that grant program to allow for administration of a program obviously would help. So,
Ben?
Just one question, Justin, when I went over this, the word qualified recipient, how do you quantify that?
Qualified recipient.
It's in the first whereas. The interest in land be transferred to a qualified recipient. How do you?
Go ahead.
So interest in land is transferred. So a qualified recipient is somebody who can hold it in perpetuity. So it can't be like a business that could fold or go under. That's why municipalities can hold conservation easements, because we'll be here forever is the idea. It's the same with like conservation easement holders, like Western Sky Land Trust, for example. They have to meet certain parameters to be able to prove that they can hold that land title interest. That's what that is.
Any other questions?
I would move that the board approve the submission of the Support for Alberta Farmland Trust Resolution to the South Region Agricultural Service Board Conference for endorsement consideration, and further that the board forward the Support for Alberta Farmland Trust Resolution to the August 18th, 2020 council meeting for council review and submission to the Central Rural Municipalities of Alberta District 2 fall meeting for endorsement consideration.
Questions on the motion? Any of the board members against the motion? Hearing none, is deemed carried. New business, agriculture environmental policy section revisions.
Yeah, so we took this opportunity. I know there were some revisions being made to some general county policies. So we took this opportunity to do the same with our ASB policies, and primarily it's relating to, again, to word changes and to the structure of the policies. So what we have is a clean copy. The first copy is just a clean copy of what the policies will do or will look like if you approve them. And then the second copy is just the changes that were made.
Jesus Christ, you scared the shit out of me.
So I think what I'll do is I'll go through the red line copy, the second copy, just so you can see the changes if there's any concerns. Like I said, they were mostly formatting, I think. Okay.
Really like how you made table of contents smaller.
Yeah.
That kind of feedback you want.
Yes. Less is better. So yeah, throughout the whole, all the policies now, you'll see a purpose statement, and then the policy statement, kind of the body, and then the document owner. So for the first vision, mission, goals, no big changes. You go down to number 8, goal 8. We changed it to make it in line with what our business plan, said. Vegetation management, again, purpose, policy statement, primarily just wording statements throughout the body. The body hasn't changed to a great extent. Mowing and spot spraying of shoulders and slopes, municipal roads. We took out things like grader mowers, so we didn't feel there was a need for things to be that specific. Obviously, things can change, and we wanted them to be fluid. So, what we did do with, if you noticed in the table of contents, we did remove some policies. So one was the brush control policy, so we added it here. Obviously, it made sense to have that within the vegetation management policy. Forage seeding, again, primarily wording, changes, manager ag services to ag and environment, and ASB to ag and environment department. So again, nothing major. Weed inspection, as you can see, important to relate back to where the legislation that we deal with are responsible for carrying out the Weed Control Act. So that's mentioned in the purpose and the policy as to what guidelines, how this policy, the activities are in accordance with the Weed Control Act. I going too fast, or is this all right way to handle it?
Oh, perfect. If there's questions, just jump in, guys.
Yeah, pest and nuisance control policy, it's just kind of a general policy. It deals with everything under the Agricultural Pest Act. There are listed pests on there, obviously, and then there's nuisances that we do some work with. Coyotes are one of those. Where we can assist farmers with predation problems if they're having predation problems on sheep or cattle or chickens or whatever stock you have. So we took out, as you notice, the M44 devices. So just so you know what those were, they were a cartridge that you would put in the ground and set a capsule of sodium cyanide on top of it. When the coyote would bite down, it would shoot off in his mouth. So we hadn't used those for years. So Alberta Ag took them back, just for the fact, like I said, when you're putting them out on a person's property, they're you know, you have to be careful with them, obviously. So we now just currently issue 1080 tablets, which is a toxicant that can be put in a carcass on site or a bait to get the predators that are coming in. So Norway rat, we changed it just to kind of went from 3 days to investigate to 2. It is a priority if we do get a call, obviously, to investigate things as soon as possible. And I do always get 3 or 4 calls a year on suspected Norway rat problems, which generally turn out to be muskrats, but it's still, there'll be that one time that it's not. So it's an important job. Richard and ground squirrel, no changes to that, really. And then the other nuisances, we took out the forwarding complaints to the local Fish and Wildlife Office. They don't deal with anything. In fact, we generally get calls forwarded to us from them. So clubroot, it stays the same pretty much. Conservation as well, and just addition of purpose policy. Animal health. This, pursuant to the Ag Service Board Act, we're just to offer assistance if need be under the Animal Health Act. So if the chief provincial or federal vets are needing assistance, they can request that from us. That's outlined there. Producer extension and education. We did flesh this one out quite a bit more because it is a big part of our programming, particularly through the winter. We went from, as you can see at the bottom, just a 2-liner. Ag Service Board works with interested partners in providing support in the ag industry, to kind of a more descriptive policy of all the things that we do. So, and we relate it back to the Ag Service Board Act, and the need or part of that is to enhance, protect viable and sustainable ag with a view to improving the economic viability of ag producer, which is a pretty broad statement, obviously. So how do you do that? And that's how we do through our various workshops, meetings, assisting with grants, etc. Parks, we remove completely, just because we do have our community services department now that deals with this. In the past, it was primarily work with Severn Dam. Obviously, we still assist with that if need be, primarily from weed control standpoint. The site containers, we took that out as well, and we put that into our ag plastic recycling, which will be further down. And again, that's just basically assisting public works and maintenance of the sites. Brush control, as I mentioned, it was moved or taken out and put into veg. Second policy. Our bursary policy, don't think a lot has changed or anything has changed with it. We do have advertisements out for it, and we'll be accepting applications till the end of August, and then we'll get together with our committee for selection again of our bursaries. Equipment rental, I think we added an addendum of what we actually have, equipment rental, list and the rates. What is removed from that is the 4-H scale, or the scale, maps and electronic tag reader that will be going to the 4-H clubs. And then our, what was our specific grain bag recycling, we just call it ag plastic recycling, primarily still refers to our grain bag rolling program, obviously, as that's the biggest component, but we added the pesticide container collection site in here. And then just other recycling if there's opportunities that pop up that we would be involved with. And twine is one that we're collecting at the waste transfer site. Livestock drive, this was in response to, actually, this policy was written originally by one of the peace officers, just in regards to livestock movement on some of our major roads, and to have signs available that producers can come and get to assist with those movements. They come directly to us, we fill out the form, and then give them the sign.
Just out of my own curiosity, do people use that a lot?
Yeah, we haven't had any this year, but for a while we'd have kind of the same, probably 3 people, and if it was moving on highways, so yeah, quite often they said they helped. I know one of the guy doesn't have cows anymore, so peace officers as well at the time would offer assistance if given enough notice with those, as well as the RCMP would give assistance as well if they were given enough advance notice.
How easy is it to get Alberta Infrastructure's permission on that? Do they need a week, a month, or?
We don't, that's up to them to get that, so they're aware that that's a requirement, but like we don't.
Does it make sense to put a phone number in there?
Yeah.
So they know who to call, like, for the normal guy, they wouldn't know who to
for
contact.
Sure. Yeah, there's a set of guidelines for it.
Yeah, that's listed in the guidelines.
Is it?
The phone number, yeah.
Oh, okay.
297.
I think the haying policy is the last one. There was just, we removed a couple sections that, in regards to insurance, the indemnity clause that's within the access and work agreement that producers are required to fill out. Going to be haying roadsides, and I haven't actually kind of dwindled off the last few years. I would get 2 or 3 requests sometimes a year, but we haven't had any last year or this year. Any calls we do get generally have been for provincial highways that aren't under our jurisdiction, obviously. Sorry, Alyssa. Environment's the last policy. Again, just some wording changes within it. And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, board's wishes.
I'll move it be accepted.
Ben has moved. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, that is carried. Ratification for Alice Partnership Advisory Committee in April.
Yeah, so I included this just because it was kind of out of, like generally we have an Alice committee meeting where we look at projects and decide on funding with this program. We just meet after ASB meetings, but just because of COVID and the way things went, we had a meeting at the end of April, and then on June 9th, we needed to have an Alice committee meeting to decide on some funding. So there still would only be 4 of these meetings in the year, but because it was not in conjunction with the regular ASB. I just wanted to bring it forward for ratification. Did include the minutes from the meeting as well. And I think moving forward, I'll just continue to do that. Various projects were discussed. Most were approved. There was a couple, I think, out of the group that weren't approved. So we have Jason, member, Barry, Barb from Alberta Ag, Rex, Derek Algrimson from DU. Ben's an alternate on it.
And I apologize, I said April, I meant June. I was sorting cows when they were doing this. It was very hard to listen to.
Yeah, and we had some struggles with
Teams, Microsoft Teams, very hard to deal with. Any questions on the Alice committee?
I'll move the ratification of the Alice Partnership, committee meeting.
Donna has moved. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, is there any opposition? Hearing none, that is passed, carried. 3, Fusarium, press release. I'm not even gonna try because it's, not 10 o'clock yet.
So yeah, Fusarium graminearum is on, or was on the Agricultural Pest Act. It's a fungal disease, particularly a problem for durum wheat, also in oats and barley. Has been on the Pest Act since '99, I believe. So it was one of the things that over the years we've obviously inspected for. We do have it here. It's kind of endemic to the south part of the province. I think, and primarily part of the reason is because of irrigation and just kind of the right conditions for it. When we would test for it, we would generally come up with a couple positives every year in wheatland. So I would say we were kind of on the north end of where it was the worst. It has spread throughout the province though. And a big part of the issue for producers was particularly seed growers, because you couldn't sell seed if it tested positive for Fusarium. The detection levels, you could detect such low quantities of the Fusarium. It was pretty tough to get a seed lot, from southern Alberta that didn't have Fusarium in it. So this was has been discussed over the years about whether it should be in, whether it shouldn't be in. I think some of you will remember discussions at ASB conferences over the years about what should be done. So there was a conference call, I think about a month ago, that Jason asked me to listen in on, and that's where we found out about it. And then the press release came out basically the next day. So the reasoning for removing it is because of assist farmers with competitiveness, and obviously part of the government's Red Tape Reduction Act. So it's something that we will still, keep an eye on. Alberta Ag does want to, or has asked us to assist with surveying for it. So if we're able, from a staffing standpoint, we'll do that. Club root will be still our priority. But so yeah, as of now, it's no longer declared pest. So we have no authority under the Pest Act to do anything about it if we do find it. So.
Any questions for us? Spirit will come back. Go ahead.
Yeah, couple, I guess. When you deliver seed to the seed plants, you have to get your seed lot tested. Is that, and of course, if it's positive, they won't clean it. Is that a county requirement, or is that a seed plant requirement, individual seed plant requirement?
Those, through the chair, those were all individual seed plant requirements. So yeah, okay. There was variance across the province as to what seed plants would do.
Okay. I think it's about time that this has happened. You didn't make reference to, and I haven't been keeping up to it, to be honest with you, but there was research and there was seed available that is resistant to Fusarium. And it's growing in Saskatchewan, I believe, if I remember right. And the trouble was it couldn't be sold in Alberta because it would test positive for Fusarium because of its genetic makeup. So that seed, I'm thinking, would become available. And also in this document, it said how the new seed treats are a very effective control on the Fusarium thing. So yeah, I think I'm thinking for me, being where we are, I've never had a lot tested, but I looked at it more as a political thing. Producers in the north wanted it banned because it kind of give them a bigger market for the seed, right? And ones in the south were kind of shut off just because of where they are. So yeah, I think it's a good move. And I would move, I think, when we're looking for a motion for information, I would accept that. Press release as information.
Member Kester has moved. Any questions? Any more questions for us before we move this as information? No? Is there any oh, Jesus. Is there any objections to the motion? Hearing none, that is carried. Moving to the chair's report. Pretty slow spring. The ALIS committee was touched on already, as you can see in the minutes, which projects were approved. I believe it was the planning and priorities that I was at when I couldn't phone in for the Fusarium. I think it was that. So thankfully Russ covered that for me. And other than that, I have got numerous calls on Gopher Poison and what our plan is for that. And I have relayed that we will probably be selling in fall. If that's still the plan, I will continue to do that. And producers are getting their names on the list because it is a big push this year, I think. I haven't seen the gophers this bad in a while, actually. So I don't know what it's like in your guys' neck of the woods, but I know we've had quite a few complaints at home. Other than that, there is nothing to report on my end. I'll move my report. Any objections? Anybody against? Hearing none, that's carried. Now, we will move to Russ's report.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe just to touch on the strychnine. Yeah, I have a list of well over 100 waiting calls.
Hey Russ, can you put me on the list?
Yeah. I get tons of calls. They've dwindled off a bit now. Luckily, with the rain, I think the canola can get ahead of the gophers. But I checked, I think 2 weeks ago on a shipment, and so it comes from India, the raw product. So that factory shut down with COVID. And then it comes to a company in Saskatchewan where the final product's made. So last I'd heard, they thought they would start production up again the start of this month, but it hasn't. So, but the intent is that when I do get it in, I will just start selling it again. Even this spring, I think I'd ordered, like we went through 300 cases, I believe, which is more than usual. So yeah, it's going to be hectic to keep up. We had been working as well, or I had been working with Corey on just a system as well online. if producers wanted to do an application payment online to help, ease, wait times of coming in and doing forms and stuff, so as soon as we have some in, I'll let everybody know anyways that it's here. So you would have seen this report yesterday at council, where our mowing spraying program started, middle of June, so we're struggling, obviously with what we can do this year. The rain, isn't helping the situation, but, anyways, right at the moment, we're about a full division behind. So our mowing program is based on greater division, and then we alternate every year, so we're not starting in the same spot every year. So we're about a division behind where we'd normally be, and I think, depending on the way things go, we'll be lucky if we get our, just one cut done this year, so we'll see how that goes. We did cut out we generally do a 15-foot mower cut on the built roads or the chipped or paved roads. So we've cut that out because of the reduced staff. So it's going to take us a little longer to get over things. Most of our seeding has been finished. I'm just waiting for construction to finish up where they're at to finish our roadside seeding program. Grain bags is continuing as usual. Calls are still trickling in, and as they always do, right through the whole year. So far, like, we are a collection site. We've only collected from one producer outside the area that brought a load in, but it's continuing well. The recycler did shut down for a time, so we had a fairly good stockpile in the yard here, but we were able to get rid of all that and just got a few bags left. Earth armyworm traps are out. That's something we participate with Alberta Ag every year and put out earth armyworm traps that goes to a mapping system on the Alberta Ag website that producers can tune into to see where we're at for insect problems or concerns. Been dealing with some black henbane problems in the Redland Rosebud area. Severe field scale, large field scale infestations that we unfortunately are having to go back to year after year. It has been looked after. There was an old publication about black henbane that went out on social media from 2015, which generated a whole ton of calls, which is fine. People are looking for it and aware of it, so we've had a lot more calls on it than usual. We received an extension to the Livestock Emergency Response Grant, which we weren't able to have 2 last training sessions with it because of COVID. So with our new staff here, we've been in contact with the new chief and deputy chief as far as starting planning for this again and getting training going for this fall, hopefully, or next spring. I think we have till June or July of next year to complete that grant. Had 1 article in the last newsletter go out. We have 3 more newsletter articles to come out as well through the season. EFP, Alice, we've discussed. Sarah also continues to work on environmental farm plans. The Alberta Invasive Species Council, we're working with them on our Alberta Invasive Plant Guide that we developed, that Sarah developed, and we distribute through our Ag Fieldmen's Association. So we're looking at a new partnership there. Rosebud, the WRP project, we're working with Rocky View. There's been 1 project approved for it in Rocky View County. Our own program, the Ag Stewardship Program and Safe Water Well programs as well. We've got various projects on the go with it. Land Trust, as we discussed, the Shelter Belt and Eco Buffer Seedling Program. We didn't have quite as much response as we thought, so we spent just a little over half the budget for this year. have a few requests come in, just as of late that we'll put on a list for next year if they're wanting to apply. Movement we've discussed. Some work looking at opportunities with Alberta Environment on wetland replacement program. Seasonal temporary water diversions that need to be applied for public works for dust control, and then some work with planning and development on an ERE policy. And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for us? Way busier than I am. Doesn't take much. Any questions on the line?
So maybe I'll just add, I had mentioned the strat plan before, the strategic plan, so communications will be a big part of that. So keep that in mind. I don't know if there's any thoughts from anybody, as far as priorities from an ag standpoint, what you'd be looking at. But like I said, obviously communication is a big component of everything we do. And, some of the suggestions, like you had said, with whether it's putting up posters or the electronic newsletter, we can certainly look at in the future. So,
any other questions? No?
I just want to say thank you for the work on the Farmland Trust resolution. It's fantastic, and it'll really help us, for sure, to Alyssa, but also to you. It's incredible, just incredibly good work, and I think it's really important for that agricultural preservation, but also maintaining landowner rights. So just wanted to thank you. I meant to do it before, but Jason's too fast.
Yeah, no, I think it's, the resolution itself is excellent, and I think it's very appropriate, and I hope it goes over well at the conferences, certainly. So it's long overdue.
Any other comments before we move to adjourn? Comments on the line?
Just a quick comment on the report. I do want to just say that feedback that I get from ratepayers is always excellent about the work that our Ag Services Department does. And I know you are busy, and it shows in, obviously that's demonstrated in your report, but I do get really good feedback from.
God, you're happy you're happy today.
I'm happy today.
No, I really appreciate that, and especially for our staff to hear that, the guys out in the field, that what they're doing to actually, it's important to our ratepayers, and they're, they're appreciative, so I'll relay that, so thank you.
So Russ, was there any, whereabouts is the tree shelter belt program?
So we had $20,000 budgeted for it, right? So we did have a workshop in the winter where we had a huge turnout. We did have a deadline in place for application to make, so we've expended 12,000 of that, and then COVID had hit kind of at the same time, so we thought it would be prudent to shut it down anyways at that point. Okay. So I'm expecting as people start to hear about it, it'll pick up. The old PFRA program we used to have, it was so well ingrained and entrenched in people. I still get calls, in fact, just in regards to it. So I think this program is something, it'll be a good program. It's something we always get have always gotten requests for over the years. So, yeah.
Don't want to go too fast. Is there any other questions? Hearing none, move to adjourn.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Barb. Right. Sorry, I didn't forget about. I did, but
Nice one.
Right. Go ahead, Barb. I forgot the line was on.
It's through the chair. Just we have a mover for my report.
Oh yeah, a mover for report.
Also move.
Donna moves. Any objections? No. Carried. Moving to Barb's report.
Okay, thanks. It isn't a big report. You probably are aware that there's lots of changes going on in Alberta agriculture right now. I think the first thing that I'll mention is the CAP program, the Canadian Agriculture Partnership Program. There have been some budget reductions due to new programs coming out through those dollars. One of the new programs is a COVID training program. It's called Agriculture Training Support, and that is for agricultural businesses that are hiring new staff. They will get some training in how to operate under COVID conditions, and the new staff do need to be Alberta people. So there's money towards that program, and then another program has been announced called the Alberta Beekeepers Stock Replacement Program, which is using CAP funds. There have been difficulties with the U.S. border being closed as far as getting breeding stock back and forth across the border, so there has been some financial assistance given to the bee industry, which comes under the CAP dollars. So within CAP, if you've been on the website at all, there are a number of programs that are not accepting applications right now. One in particular, the one that I coordinate, is the Environmental Stewardship and Climate Change Group Program. It's suspended right now. So instead of taking applications, and we're hoping that we still can be taking applications within a few months, but we're doing a lot of work with the over 50 projects that we do have on the go, really making sure we're able to analyze the results from projects, making sure that the information that is received through these projects gets out to producers and that sort of thing. So it is an opportunity to do that. Within the programs that are still open, the ones that producers can specifically apply for, the Environmental Stewardship and Climate Change Producer Program is still open. We are under budget pressures under that program, but at this point it is still open. The Farm Water Supply Program is open. Irrigation Efficiency is open. So those are the only specific producer programs that are open, and then there are other programs open for agricultural groups. One thing that we've been doing that has hopefully assisted with some of the CAP projects that are on the go, and also with the rural extension staff in municipalities, Catherine, who was with our energy program, has been putting on webinars to provide information on how to do extension virtually, because there are so many farm tours that need to be canceled and conferences have had to be canceled because of the virus. So there's been really good response to these webinars on doing extension virtually. So that's a little bit of an update on CAP. I think probably you're familiar with the fact that the department has been going through some staff reductions and so on. I guess one of the big ones is that the Agriculture Information Office in Stettler, all of the extension staff were basically let go. So that office now just has a couple of administration people who I believe try to refer farmers to other sources for questions that they may have. So that's been quite a big change. Extension staff has been reduced, and also staff upcoming, there will be more reductions in the fall, is what we hear, particularly in applied research that the department has done. And what has been developed, which will be replacing some of that research work, is an organization called RDAR, which stands for Results Driven Agriculture Research. And this organization will be funding research projects that are targeting grants towards both the livestock and crop industries, and hoping to be fully functional in the spring of 2021. So there will still be applied research on the go. It'll just be organized in a different matter. One of the other things that we're experiencing right now in Alberta agriculture is the government operating system is changing, and Alberta agriculture is one of the trial departments moving to a program called 1GX. So we might be having some fun trials and tribulations there, I would imagine, over the next month or two as well. Staff, I think approximately 60% of staff have been working from home during the COVID pandemic. And as of August 4th, all staff are to be back in offices. So that will change in the next little while as well. So that's about all I have today, but just to give you a bit of an update on what is happening in the department. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Barb?
Through the chair, Barb, I didn't catch, you said the layoffs that are coming still are gonna come from where?
Our understanding is that there will be layoffs this fall, and for sure the research area, and perhaps more extension people, and then it will be negotiations between union people and the government as well. So it could involve more administration people who are under the union. So it was to happen beginning of April, and then it was put off till I believe it was July because of the virus, and now we're told that it will still happen, but it won't happen until the fall.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Barb? Seeing none, we have somebody move her report. Barb, I apologize. I'm just so used to you sitting next to me or seeing your smiling face. So.
No problem.
I'd like to move Barb's report.
Barry has moved Barb's report. Anybody against the motion on the floor? Hearing none, that is carried. I will adjourn this meeting.
We're not going to discuss ASB?
Both differently.
Sorry, I apologize. Well, that's the second page. I thought it was just wasting money.
So we'll give everybody, if they want to refill their coffees or anything, we'll be back in like as soon as possible. I'm gonna be back here at 5 after. You got 3 minutes. 5 minutes.
I'm just gonna stop the recording, then restart it again.
You want to record this? Do we have to?